Hey guys, welcome back to Alex Rants. I'm a corporate banker reacting to different financial situations online, all of it pertaining to personal finance. Prior to my banking career, I was a financial advisor, so um, I would think most people would consider myself to be pretty well versed in the realm of personal finance. Um, Something I'm passionate about, something I enjoy looking at. So today I will be reacting. This will be a quick video reacting to some more of my favorite poverty finance Reddit page. Um, here's a crazy situation here. Person, why I'll always be poor for the next 30 years. Um, it seems this person was co-signed on this loan based on some of the comments. As you co-sign this loan for your sister, no good deed goes unpunished. But let's take a look at this. Oh, okay. You can see it from here. Okay. Loan amount $45,000 student loan at a 13.375% interest rate. Finance charges and total payments. What are finance charges? Just uh, when your loan's amortized over like a 10-year period, probably I'm guessing this is a 15 year amortization period. These finance charges is basically just your interest payments, and the total payments is just this plus your total loan amount, your actual balance. But what's crazy is that these people, $45,000 loan turns into $151,000 worth of payments. And that's due to this interest rate. I mean, it's like usurious rates in my opinion. I mean, 13% is kind of egregious, especially for Sally Mae. I mean, come on, it's just ridiculous. Um, you know, I think Congress needs to do something about lending. It just like student loan lending, like student loans. It's just ridiculous. And I'm not saying to pay them off, but just there needs to be I think a limit to the amount that students are able to take out. I think that limit needs to be correlated with the incomes that the majors that graduates in your major get. So if the average like art major is making 50K a year out of college, like you shouldn't be able to take out more than half of that salary as your like total student loan amount. Like, so if you're paying 50K as an art major, your student loan should not be more than $25,000 by the end of college. Honestly, like they need to do something. These schools all sitting on endowments of worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars, and they love to tout all this uh, inclusivity and all this stuff, but then and social justice, but then they are happy to raise their tuition rates, tuition costs by 6, 7, 8% a year, um, and not help their students. So it's the whole thing's just a mess. But the key here, and there's my rant. The key here, though, is I think for those of you who may not be super well versed in finance, I mean, just look at the impact that your interest rate has on your loan, on the total amount that you guys end up paying. I mean, it's a $45,000 loan, but you're paying $151,000. This is something I thought would be worth kind of pointing out, taking a look at. Let's see. Okay, last thing here. This person is drowning in debt. Let's do something. Let's do a different flair. Okay, we've talked about the the debts. Let's talk about maybe budgeting, saving, investing. Um, let's see. Ways to cut your food costs. And I saw another prompt that was actually interesting too. Okay, so ways to cut your food costs. Just going over my costs for the month. Discover I spend $568 on food for the month. I feel like it's a lot considering I'm only buying for myself. Also living on my own for the first time. I live in California, a very expensive place to live. So I'd be curious right off the bat, like, is this what you're spending total on going out and also going out as well, or is this just your groceries? Um, let's see, this person says, always cook more, eat out less, drop name brands, utilize cheap staples, make sure you aren't wasting, buying 5 apples and only eating 3. Track every last cent of spending. This helps you find out how and where you're spending your money. So, I think this person is really just this is pretty much what I would say as well. But I'll expand on some of these things. I'll start with the last point he makes about just budgeting. I mean, having a budget is so important. It's hard to budget. Like, it's really hard to budget. You have to be disciplined with your money. You have to be disciplined with your daily habits. You need to make sure that you are recording every single transaction that you're making throughout the day. I mean, that's not fun, and that's not just a lighthearted approach to life. That's a disciplined approach to life. But budgeting is very, very important. I budget. I use the Ramsey Every Dollar app. I'm not like a Dave Ramsey spokesman by any means, but I do think that he's pretty good, and he's very good. I mean, obviously I'm a finance major and I'm a banker, so I'm involved in lending to businesses. But fundamentally, though, Dave Ramsey's approach to personal finance is 90%, 95% good. The only counter I would say is, I think leveraging certain assets is, still appropriate, especially when you're talking about real estate. But anyways, I use Ramsey Every Dollar to budget. It's difficult, but when you budget, you really start to see where your money's going, and you start to really cut back. And you say, wow, I spent whatever $150 on my local pub this month. I gotta stop drinking or whatever. Or you start realizing how stupid going out is with your friends, and maybe you're better off just having a night in with your friends and buying a 6-pack and just talking at home. You're probably not going to get any girls when you guys go out anyway, so you might as well just stay in, talk, have a good conversation, build each other up, watch a game or something, and call it, and only really go out for special occasions. But that's not to say that I do that either. I tend to go out with some friends as well, but I go out less and less, definitely. At least when I do go out, it's really quite tranquil. I'm normally not going crazy or getting super drunk or anything. But okay, so that's step one. That's my little 2 cents on budgeting. Cooking more, eating out less. That's pretty obvious. Dropping name brands, I think that's pretty obvious as well. I mean, it doesn't make sense to be paying for Heinz ketchup I guess maybe Heinz might be worth it, to be fair, but it doesn't make sense to pay for whatever. I don't know, like Quaker Oats, when you can buy your local grocery store branded, like Walmart branded oatmeal it's the exact same thing, and for 50 cents less or whatever, $1 less. Utilizing cheap staples. I'll just expand on this, and this will be my last point. The way I save money on food is I eat the same thing every day. And except for when I go out, and I go out with my friends. Luckily, I'm not in a position where I'm eating the same thing every day because of budget purposes, but really, or rather because of financial constraints, but rather because for me it's easier. It's way less of a hassle. I hate cooking to begin with, so knowing that I eat, knowing when I wake up in the morning, I don't have to think about what I'm going to make. I just eat the same oatmeal and blueberries every day. I eat my protein shake, oatmeals, blueberries, some ham and cheese, and that's it. That's every morning. It's my breakfast, and lunch is just rice, beans, and a rotisserie chicken that I buy, a pre-cooked chicken. So that's my 2 cents as far as utilizing cheap staples: rice, beans, frozen broccoli, and pre-cooked chicken. So I don't have to spend any time really cooking. I mean, rice and beans takes 15 minutes to make. So that's my 2 cents. All right, let's move on to the last one here. Examples of being poor is expensive. I think this is a good prompt. I'm not going to read all of this, but Can you think of reasons why being poor is expensive? And I challenge you guys to maybe think about this too. You miss out on savings by buying bulk, either buying bulk at somewhere like Costco, and you miss savings that you get by buying large quantities on sale days like Black Fridays. You have to buy things that are cheaper but probably worse quality. However, if you bought something more expensive, actually better savings in the long run, because a cheap pair of boots might last you 2 years, but the more expensive pair will last you maybe 15. Okay, say groceries are more expensive in low-income areas. That's interesting. I don't know if that's true, but they did. Well, here you don't get a chain grocery store, so it ends up being more expensive. That could be true. That's probably true. So we'll take that as the truth. At least we'll operate on that premise. Check cashing fees. That's pretty obvious. Should probably have a bank account. Being forced to sell things out of desperation. Pretty good, I agree. Being forced to sell things out of desperation. Some items will just throw it to the side of the road because they're trash to you. Saw a TV with a small screen defect for $65. Sold a pair of AirPods with one AirPod missing for 20. Okay. No, where job hopping offers upward mobility, living paycheck to paycheck means you can't take the risk of trying to find better pay. I think this is not an appropriate. Like, I don't know. I don't think this is a good example because it's not a risk to find better pay. It's a reward. Actually, it's the opposite of a risk. Maybe they mean that you can't take off the hours. Like you can't take. If you've got to work 60 hours a week to make ends meet, how much time does that really leave you to be looking for another job? In that regard, they say, well, if it means by risk, you have to take 10 hours less a week, but you can't afford to take 10 hours less a week. That makes sense. Legal stuff, yeah, I guess good legal advice would be expensive, but why? What do you really need legal advice for unless it's criminal? There's probably not too many situations. I don't know. I can't think of as many like situations where like lawyers would be like frequently needed in a lower income household. Obviously, there's always like litigations and divorces and things, but let's see. Can't afford an accountant. Hard to work full time in a side gig and understand taxes well enough. Incurred fines or overpay. Yeah, that's taxes are pretty straightforward. I mean, I don't think they're particularly difficult. I also go to like an H&R Block and it's like $100 to file or whatever, $200 to file taxes. I don't know if that's too much of a luxury, but it's probably worth it because you don't have to worry about doing anything wrong. It's also super easy if you're like basically like a W-2 employee with no additional assets because we're poor in this situation. So it's pretty easy to file taxes. Eight's kind of weird. Medical care, they live in Canada, so it's a little bit different, but let's see. Okay. More likely not to do online returns and get refunds you deserve. You're just too exhausted to bother. You also need a printer and packaging materials. Okay, I guess that's fair. I'm not a big shopper, and I rarely ever return anything because it's just not even I just don't even think about it. Normally I buy things with certainty. I don't really buy things to see if I'll like them to then return it. It's just like such a hassle in my head. So I can't speak to that. Okay, so this person's really put a lot of thought into this. Let's see, less time to learn smart ways to save. So, I'm going to pause here just for a quick second and just say, when you read these, I think it's good because you really I feel like you get to just kind of maybe empathize a little bit more or really get to put yourself in the shoes of like some poor people or people who are struggling to make ends meet. And you see that, they're too tired to go look for another job. They're too tired to maybe find another way to save or to maybe file their taxes correctly, or they're too tired to do things and they're stressed because they're living paycheck to paycheck, and then they feel desperate. And it's this sort of mental like tornado going on of like constant despair and anxiety and stress. It can be challenging. But I'll continue. But I just want to say, put yourselves in this shoe. Okay, less time to learn smart ways to save. You might be the last to figure out that a company is selling you a dumb rate. Yeah, okay. You could more likely to fall victim to scams. More likely to gamble or fail with any finance where temperament is important, like the stock market. So there's a lot of good options. A lot of these are kind of like good. A lot of these are pretty good, like points. But I think that like when I hear examples of being poor is expensive, I do think like this check cashing is somewhat of a good example. Like you have these payday lenders or people who don't have bank accounts for, they have to go submit when they get checks from work, they have to take it to like an Amscot or some payday lender, and they're going to take out 8% of the check amount, which is criminal. Surprised it's even legal, honestly. These usurious practices in society. They don't have access to credit. I think that's a good example. I think this is probably the number one thing. Um, you know, every nowadays, you have to kind of finance your lifestyle. It's very hard to cash flow a lifestyle, especially if you don't have significant sums of money. So an example is like you need a car to get to work, and then that car that you're buying, you have to finance because you don't have $10,000 because you can't get to work otherwise. So you got to get the car like almost before you get to work. And even if it's just like a $10,000 car, I mean, even if you have to finance that, you take it to buy here, pay here, and they're charging you 20% interest rate on a car. That's tough. That's $2,000 a year in interest. It decreases over time as you pay down the principal, but you're talking anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a year, $100 to $200 a month just in interest alone, and I think that's really what people mean when they say like being poor is expensive. Inability, no access to credit. The access to credit that you do have is extremely high interest rates. I think you act you act in desperation, as they mentioned before, and I think more than anything too is you also just get into, I think like the state of despair that is such a like negative mentality that you lock yourself into your situation. Like you're almost like, I don't know. It's like if you like live in a cage your whole life, like you're not gonna see what's outside of the cage. It's like the allegory of the cave by Plato. I think it's Plato. Allegory of the cave, right? Like where this guy, if you guys don't know what it is, the allegory of the cave is where these three guys sitting in a dark cave looking at a wall, at the cave wall, and behind them is a torch. And so the torch is casting their shadows like onto the wall, or it's casting the shadows. I'm sorry, it's not a torch. I don't know if it's a torch or not, but there's a light basically. I think it's either the light at the end of the tunnel or whatever. There's some light casting the shadow onto the cave wall. So these three guys are basically chained facing this wall, and they keep seeing these shadows like pass by. And long story short, one guy finally like makes it out and realizes like the whole time those shadows that they thought were like whatever, like these like images or these kind of fantasies that they created, ended up actually being real people like outside of the cave, and there was like a whole world outside of the cave that they didn't even know about. And then he goes and tells the people in the cave like, hey, there's a whole world out there, you got to go see it. Like those shadows themselves aren't actually people, those are just representations of the real people who are out here outside of the cave. And he tells them, and they don't listen. They don't believe him. They think he's crazy. And I think I think it's very easy to get into that mentality, especially when you're frustrated financially. I also think that you tend to spend money when you're poor or feeling poor. I had a pretty tough year a couple years ago, And I remember being unhappy that year. And it's almost like when you spend money, it feels like it's your only. It's like it's when you buy something, it's almost like a bit of like a representation of your autonomy. You know, like I buy this food because I want it. Like I want something and I pay for it and I get it. And I think that autonomy gives you a little sense of pride, right? Like it makes you feel like, okay, I can, I feel like I have some ownership over my like life. Like if I want something, I can pay for it and I can get it. And so when everything in your life is stressful and sucks, going out with to eat with your friends and like having a nice experience, and paying for that, even though it's against your best interest, is all the more enticing because it's like the perfect little escape, and it's also the perfect way to almost delude yourself into thinking that you really are in control, when really it's you're acting against your own best interest. And um, when you're acting against your own best interest and you're not in the position to do that, and you're not actually in control, like you're ultimately not in control. um, you have to be doing things that you don't want to do in order to get to where you want to be, so you can do the things you want to do. So I think that's also very common. I feel like um, people tend to overspend when they're poor and struggling. But okay, sorry, this was another kind of a long video, 20 minutes. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this. I'll keep posting. I'll try to keep them shorter. I might just do like one review and keep it to like 5-6 minutes. But anyways, that was Alex Rants. I hope you guys like it. Give me a like, thumbs up, subscribe, hit the like button, comment. Tell me what you guys like. Anything different you'd like to do. If I'm being boring, I'm sure I am. I feel like this is like the perfect background, stuff. Like you don't know what else to listen to. I'll just be ranting, so you can have that white noise while you work or something. But anyways, hope you guys have a good night. Take care, and hope to see you soon.